Oh, he mustn't let standards slip. You know, we're not.
Where's
we're not,
my fez?
We're not savages. We're not.
Oh, it's not a
Spartans.
fez. It's a Santa hat. A
No.
leopard skin. Okay.
But it's stylish like a fez. So that's part of the fun there.
Oh yeah, it is. Very good. So we'll just I'm going to do one, you do two, three, three, so forth.
Right.
Ready? So 1,
1,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4.
4.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing quite well. You look rather festive today.
I feel rather festive. I'm always a Grinch right up until the Christmas shopping is done. And then suddenly my heart is light and I'm full of cheer. I'm not sure what the corollary is, but I'm sure there is one.
Yeah, I've seen Santa hats and I've seen leopard skin, but I don't think I've ever seen a leopard skin Santa hat before.
I like to rock it vintage,
Okay.
whenever possible. So yeah.
So I'm assuming that no leopards were harmed in the making of that hat.
No, nor hipsters. No hipsters were harmed either. We could have chased one down, but we didn't. So
yeah, that hipster, his day was saved just because you just didn't want to put forth the effort.
That's right. That's right.
They're too young and skinny.
I looked at him and went, whatever.
So we are hitting the well, I don't know when I'm going to drop this. So you and me in the past, as opposed to people listening to it in the future, we're barreling down towards Christmas.
Yes.
And I think for everybody, well, I should say everybody, it's me making generalizations. Gaming's been kind of odd,
to say the least.
And so why don't we just kind of briefly, since we're just doing a potpourri, I guess I'll call this the tell us something about potpourri.
Yes.
Maybe it's potpourri and leopard skin Santa hats. I don't know.
Right. It's a Christmas medley.
So, so what's your gaming situation? Like what's been on the scene? I mean, you've I follow your actually, I think I need to put that in the show notes. You've got a Substack.
Yeah, Substack now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, for the North Texas Apocalypse Bunker.
Yes, and I'm not just saying this because Mark's here staring at me, but you really need to read that. Get on board, subscribe, because every word is fun to read.
I'm not doing much right now. I'm running an extended playtest session for the Polite Society book I'm working on.
Is that 5e?
Yeah, it's going to be 5e based, but honestly, looking through it, there's not going to be a lot of 5e specific things in the heist maker. The heist generator itself is pretty system neutral. So if you have any experience with taking 5e stuff and making it old school, this whole book will be awesome. But the heist generator in particular. So I'm running it pretty much final draft as it goes, and having a ball with it, really. I've recorded a few of the sessions, and I'm going to use those I'm going to do some snippets of them for samples of how the game works. And of course, I'm going to essentially, I'm going to roll up at least one or two heists on camera in real time so people can see how the whole thing plays out. But we're having a ball with the game itself.
How many players have you got?
I've got 3 right now, and there's room for one more. But I think what I'm probably going to do after this is just send the finished draft rules out to some groups that I know and say, break it, take it.
So
take
are
it
you
apart.
running this remotely, or are you running it in person?
I'm Zooming it. Yep. Which is the thing we all do now. So, but the additional caveat being that they're all people in different cities and states anyway. So I would have loved to have everybody here, but not necessarily feasible at this time. So.
Well, I've been running a Coriolis game, and
Ooh.
yeah,
How's that going?
Pardon?
How's that going?
Um, it's going okay. I think that I'm one of the limiting factors. Uh, it's uh, it's it's been going okay. It's been going good. People are having fun. Uh, I can talk about because none of the people that are in the game listen to the podcast, so I can talk about it.
Hey,
And so one of the people that was on it, he asked me if he wanted to join. He asked me what I thought, and I said it's pretty good, and it's going okay. And he said his probably his beef with the game. He didn't really state it this way. I think was that in one ways I think he was kind of going in it being a more serious sci-fi game, and then but it's actually turned into a lovable. I can't really put it like a this is so I can find his quote. I probably won't be able to pull up real quick. Not quick enough to make it worthwhile, but basically a lovable band of villains versus a serious heist. So I think, and that's kind of interesting too, is he wasn't necessarily complaining, but the tone of the game really, people do come with different for expectations, different tones.
yeah, yeah. It's sci-fi is one of those big umbrellas, and if the success of Mothership and the relaunch of Traveler, it's kind of been any indicator of that, and also Stars Without Number. Everybody's wanting some of that classic vintage stuff, but there's a ton of quirky sci-fi stuff out there as well. That's there really is almost every flavor at this point. I can't think of a subgenre of science fiction that you can't get on a tabletop somewhere.
Yeah, but I think what's happening is, at least in this particular situation, it goes back to fantasy. It goes back to I think the fantasy or the science fiction or whatever is the genre that you consume tends to
Right.
influence. I think, or what people consume tends to influence the kind of games they want to play.
Totally. Yes. It's always nice when you find gamers who are willing to experiment and try new games, and they want to get out of their comfort zone. But most people, and this sounds like a dig, but it's really not, because it's I'm talking about readers and people who watch a lot of TV. They don't really want something new. They kind of want the same thing over and over again. And again, no judgments on any of that. I understand. I sold books for years and years, and got really good at recognizing when somebody was wanting something different and when somebody just wanted the next book in the series. And so, gaming isn't any different than that, frankly.
It isn't. It isn't. And I think the thing too, it's like really, I think it, and okay, so what I will say is the group that I game with, everybody's great. Everybody's fun. But all it takes is really one or two people to just kind of be less serious, and the whole game is less serious.
Right.
You pretty much everybody's got to be like, this is, and not that everything just is kooky, but it's definitely not the Expanse style game.
Yeah. I've for years, and even now, I curate my players. I choose who I want to play with, for that very reason.
Right.
And I'm always in awe of people who say, yeah, we just grabbed 4 people and started playing. I'm like, wow, really? Because that just feels like anarchy to me.
I've done that.
And it's certainly for convention play. It's the only way to do it, right? You're limited by who signs up. But, and I think the difference is with convention play, you're bringing 6 characters to the table and you guys choose among these. But anytime I've tried to do that with a campaign and had people in it that I didn't know or hadn't had a conversation with prior to this, there's always like, one person who, okay, so we're all being a barbarian tribe and you're all going to be different types of barbarian peoples. And you're going to be a barbarian shaman, and you're going to be a skirmisher, and you're going to be a scout, and you're going to be a barbarian rogue. And what do you got over there? I'm a half bat.
Yeah.
I know ice magic. What? No, but I only want to play this character. Oh, this is great. I'm excited to see how this goes. This just suddenly became Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 1980s. Pure
Okay,
unity.
so this is interesting because this is interesting because this is bringing up stuff because we're rambling because we didn't have any of this planned, but it's bringing some stuff up.
As we do.
I have had situations where I've had a sci-fi game and there's a particular person that wants to play something cute that everybody hates with a passion.
Yeah, I know.
And they're not trying to be that, but it's like it's either not fitting or nobody wants an Ewok in a Star Wars game.
Right.
They just don't want any character being an Ewok. It's like, no.
But I love the Ewoks. They're my favorite part of Star Wars. How did you get to Star Wars then?
And I think it's interesting if you think about it, is like there's like two sides to this. You think about, at the table, there's one side where we try and be like open and encouraging to other people.
Right.
But yet there's still a responsibility, I think, on the other side. It's like, and I can understand some people are being jerks, but sometimes it's like, if it's not really fitting what everybody else is wanting to play, maybe not go that direction.
Yeah. I mean, if the whole gang is like, let's do Ewoks. All right. Not quite the Star Wars experience I was hoping to throw at you, but if everybody's Ewoks, then it's a very different kind of adventure. And I don't mind doing it as long as everybody at the table's having a good time.
Yeah, if that's everybody's signed up for. And
I see it in anime a lot. There's always that one left of center anime character, and I want to play that quirky one. Oh, and
one person they played another one was a creature, is a sci-fi, and the creature was a primitive.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now like at that point, like no use of technology.
Right. Right.
You're in a spacefaring game.
Yeah. You can't be an Ioshan on the USS Enterprise. You just can't. No matter how cool that may be, that's only one episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
You can't tease that into a thing. So
and so that's what's hard. And I'm as a GM, I tend to be more. I try to be accommodating to what people want.
Right.
And I try not to be the guy that says no, unless it's an obvious no. But I do have to sometimes, especially for certain younger people I've had to game with. It's like, no, we're not.
and whoever came up with calling it session 0, right? I'm not sure who originated the official term. We used to just sit down ahead of time and talk about what we want to play. Now it's called session 0. I think that's brilliant. I love that idea because then you can get those ideas out onto the table, right away. And then everybody else can go. You're not surprising somebody with a full character sheet, right? You can let everybody know, okay, so the tone of this is going to be this. And then when the one person says, can I be a unicorn? You cannot be a unicorn unless you want to be a unicorn that deals death in human form, and then they go, I can work with that. Okay, then now we're playing a game. So yeah, that's going forward. That's really the way to do it. The last one of the, not polite society things, but the last basic game I did, I gave my group, here's 5 different world area starting points and the political stuff going on and the possible adventures around it. And you guys sit down and pick which one sounds the best to play, and because I'm ready to go with all 5 of those. So whichever one you like, we'll do that one. And so what they came back with, they said, well, none of us could pick out a first choice, but our second choice, everyone's second choice was Eldritch Piracy. And I'm like, Eldritch Piracy it is. Okay, then. And so that's what we ran with. And doing that made everything sang, the characters all worked together. They were friends right out of the gate. It just avoided so much of the awkward stuff that you get in especially early on in those games. So yeah.
Well, I find interesting for Coriolis, what I've done is I generate so they just chose to be agents. So what I did was they were wanting me just to assign them jobs,
Right.
which it's like I didn't really quite want to do that. So what I ended up doing is basically made them like, I guess, like the A team,
Okay.
whatever, or leverage or whatever. But what I did is they had a handler, and they would have a choice of jobs they could do.
Right.
But I also find it interesting is that once they had a choice, because I tried to vary it. So I would throw in a couple that were more of the agent, off the agent list, random generated, maybe one off of a mercenary, and then a couple off of the merchant.
Oh, cool.
And so you could combine them. So you could say, you know what,
Right.
delivery needs to be made to this planet or to this system. There's also a potential to pick up this other job in the system after, so they could kind of look at the map and kind of pick and choose and kind of create a plan. But it just surprises me that the types of missions that they chose tend to be different than the ones I would have done if I would have picked, because they weren't really exactly the ones that sounded like they were saying they wanted. Like what they really wanted and what they really chose, or what they said they wanted and what they chose, kind of was a little different.
Yeah. Well, isn't that there's surely some sort of axiom about players' expectations versus GM planning. I'm not
Oh
sure
my
exactly how that
goodness.
goes, but you know,
Yeah, I've been dealing with that lately. They're
yeah.
like, well, instead of going this way, we could go all the way around to this other thing. I'm like, you could.
Yeah.
We'll
I'm
have to
not
stop right
saying no.
here.
Right. That's exactly it.
Instead of
Yeah.
going to California across the US, we'll just go around the globe.
That's right.
Like I didn't see that coming.
Nope.
It's not a bad idea, but I never saw that coming.
Now I've got to go research the Bering Straits. Yeah.
So anyhow, and then there's other one where they're supposed to kidnap a person. They are not combat people, but they chose to try and hijack the other ship, mid-system.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. So
Okay.
so anyway, but anyway, I mean, the problem is I've noticed with games is sometimes I vary with the number of people.
Yeah.
So there's a game called Free League also has a game called Forbidden Lands. So Forbidden Lands is, I think the setting isn't great. I don't like it, but it is a genius hex crawl.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it's very much I'll say a West Marches. It can be kind of a West Marches kind of game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I thought about doing then is maybe we may not have enough people if they want to do a direct assault. Maybe we'll just also start up a Forbidden Lands game we could just jump in and out of.
Right.
But I think what's going to happen is we could run the Forbidden Lands game. They're just going to run Forbidden Lands.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because we've hit probably about 9 or 10. We only run about 9 or 10 sessions and we're done generally.
Yeah. That makes sense. I used to kind of poo-poo at the idea of there being an adventurers guild with a board where you could just pick up adventures on. And I was like, this should all connect and this should all make sense. And more the older I've gotten, the more I look at that and go, bulletin board, index cards, I'm digging it. Oh, that's good. And so yeah, I think that's wise, especially in the absence of having characters with a narrative through line. I find that with stuff like that, it's better to give them a few just kind of basic adventures and then let a narrative evolve out of those adventures and interacting with people and getting to know folks. And
right, because if the area that they're in is small enough, they are going to make friends and they're going to make enemies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you can threaten the friends and you can throw enemies back at them.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep. You got it.
What's also very interesting, because I end up buying the Foundry virtual tabletop. So it's $50.
Mm-hmm.
And Forbidden Lands really is it's random. There's just a lot of random tables and they generate I don't want to say they're not complex, but there's a fair amount to those tables.
Yeah.
But when they integrate that into Foundry, it is astounding how quickly you can generate stuff like button, zip, here's your encounter. Zip,
Oh,
here's your
wow.
encounter. And then you can also, and it will make a journal entry. Then you can take that journal entry and you can even drag it onto the map. So you can see where it's at on the map. And anytime you see it on the map, you can click it and open it up.
No kidding.
Oh, it's insane. It's
Okay.
insane. So
Wow.
what's also interesting about Forbidden Lands is a lot of it's exploration, but it's also consumption. So did you ever play the One Ring?
I didn't.
Okay, well, I didn't either. So I guess we don't have the reference that I'm going to bring. But there are 4 cycles. There's 4 quarters of a day.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're exploring, there's several things you can do. You can scout. You can also be on watch.
Mm-hmm.
You can hunt. And then what you do is each character has a thing that they can do during that time.
Right.
And all those things have implications.
Yeah.
And so your food could run out, but you can always hunt. But if you failed your hunt rolls, you can not get food, and you could also have complications arise.
Yeah.
Same thing with if you're moving ahead, you need somebody to scout. You're still going to make it, but then if they fail, then something bad could happen. So and as a party, you can choose exactly what you're doing for each quarter, and the way time progresses because of that. And it's a very neat system. But that's automated in a way where you can just drag your characters to do what thing they're doing into this sheet, and then you just click the button and it will roll to do whatever it is that they're doing. And then if they fail, you can still roll what the complication is if they greatly fail. So I think seeing that it makes me realize how they're able to they're not complicated, but lengthy subsystems and make them into very quick ones online is absolutely astounding.
Yeah. I admit I'd heard of the Foundry and kind of knew sort of what it was, but never really explored it. But now that makes me want to go take a look at it and check it out. That sounds really cool. So.
Yeah, now that's just for the Forbidden Lands that they developed that.
Right.
I mean, everything that they do, anybody can do. There's nothing that it's an open source. Everything's ran with macros.
Okay.
Everything, but so there's a lot you can do and customize, and that people have already done and customized that you can utilize with these modules. So like with Coriolis, there's so the Coriolis, because they can, I guess, they changed the calendar. So they've got, instead of 12 months, it's 9 months, one for each of the icons, and each month has 37 days, except for one that's 38.
Right.
And then blah, blah, blah. But they got a calendar app. You can create your own calendar and keep notes on it just like it was. So you can, which is kind of important, because you can say when you arrived, when you've left, when you're due to pay this, and you can keep track of stuff with a calendar. You could customize it to any system you want.
Right. That's kind of cool. That's yeah. I it's not that I fear that stuff. It's just that I know there's a learning curve to it.
There is.
And I kind of I hate to sound like the old guy. But I with my limited resources of time, I could either spend it clicking through a bunch of stuff and watching tutorials and cutting and pasting and doing this, or I could be writing a thing and do it theater of the mind and let's get going. So I tend to always default to, I'd rather create content than learn how to manage it. If those are my two choices. So
well, I think there's two ways of looking at it. Will it make your life, so you're going to be putting time in it. Will you get that much benefit for the time you put in? It's yes or no, right?
Right.
And you don't know. It could be like, I'm going to put 40 hours in this, and at the end I'm going to say, this was a piece of junk. I wasted all that time.
Right. You're right. I need to probably have a little more faith and at least give it a shot and try. You never know until you try on stuff like that. So that's a good point.
But for me, though, I find for whatever reason, I find that for some things like this, I find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
But see, here's the corollary. But that's time I'm not doing other things too.
Always. Right. I know. Yeah, I know. I always think of it when I'm explaining my creative process to people is I got 5 dots and I got 10 squares, and every day I can put a dot on a square, and whatever those dots are on, that's what I can get done today. But there's 5 left. Yes, there's 5 left. So I got to pick which 5 I'm doing because I can't do it all. And so,
but you also put more than one dot in each box.
You sure can. Yeah. Absolutely. And frequently do, yeah, absolutely. There are days when I got 5 dots in one box and I don't remember to eat.
Yeah.
So
or for me, it's like, why am I doom scrolling on Facebook? It's like, why did I put 2 dots into this? I should have put like 1 dot into this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I have to sometimes just say, just stop. You're wasting time. But I think the thing is I found for myself is I've kind of given into, it's going to sound weird, but I find it's better for myself if I just give into sometimes the irrational. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, for whatever reason, I feel better by doing this. It makes no sense, right. But it's like, but anyhow,
I chalk it up as mental health day stuff for me. Totally.
So the other thing is, what I've also done is I'm also planning, this is weird. And somebody told me this is the most hyped up, I forget how I put it. So I'm planning a game for 2023.
Right.
Of running a game. And so I got I got at least one person signed up. I think I got a couple of people halfway signed up. But it's Runequest.
It's a year away.
Yeah, I'm saying I want you to sign up. I want you to pinky swear you'll play in this game.
Wow.
But I'm not going to do this till 2023. So the game's Runequest.
Okay. You will get some people that will sign up for that. Yeah.
Well, as far as people that I know, not a lot. Dan Wilson from Planar Compass, he's on board.
Yeah.
A couple other acquaintances. So there was 2 other people that I know kind of signed up. I don't know if they're really serious or not. There's another person so the Foundry has a Discord, and it has people looking for games, people looking for players for free, and people looking for players, their GMs who are wanting paid. I enjoy scrolling through that. Because it just, I like to see what's out there, who's charging, who's not charging, what kind of games are people playing, what kind of games are people looking for. So we're at a rest stop, and I'm just waiting for my wife because it was cold and I didn't want to go back in the car because we're on vacation. I just spent 7 hours in the car and I just did not want to get in there before I had to, but it's cold and I didn't want to do it outside. And so she came out, and then when I got sat in the car, I realized I had messaged a person on Discord that I did not intend to. So, and it was a gal, and all of a sudden I didn't say anything, but it went ahead and did it. And I'm like, I feel very awkward. So I said, sorry, I did not mean, this is an accident. I don't necessarily have any gains, but anyway, she was friendly enough, but she might be signed up, but that was just the weirdest situation. I just felt like, it's like accidentally ringing somebody's doorbell and they answer the door. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I was just trying to tie my shoe. I was just tying my shoe here.
Wow. All right. Actually Runequest appeals to me. I'd be interested in playing.
Well, then I'll send you a invite to the Discord.
Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
we'll be playing on Foundry. So the reason I was also waiting is I want to see if they're going to put it on Foundry themselves, because
Gotcha.
otherwise it's a tremendous amount of effort to get
Yeah,
that data put in.
yeah.
So have you what experience have you read RuneQuest at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm real familiar with the Chaosium stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the issue is, and I'm kind of afraid too, is it's people are intimidated because of like going through Forgotten Realms because of the
Hmm.
lore.
Yeah.
They got nothing on RuneQuest.
Right.
It's
Right.
and it could be a bit intimidating, but people don't have to know all that stuff.
No, no. You just tell me where we're starting. I need to know from 5 years ago. That's what I need. I need to know where I am in the world right now.
Yeah.
All the rest of it we can figure out in game. I can read at my leisure, you know.
But I
Yeah.
do find the mythology it is incredibly dense.
Hmm. Oh yeah. They put a lot of time in on it. And well that's just I think that's one of the hallmarks of all of the Chaosium games, Call of Cthulhu, Stormbringer, uh, the why am I blanking on the King Arthur game?
Uh, it's Pendragon, but
Indiana.
Jeff. So I interviewed. So it'll be if you listen to my podcast when it's released, it'll be in the future. But for everybody listening, it'll be in the past. But I interviewed Jeff Richard, who who uh, who's creative director at Chaosium,
Oh, cool.
and I blanked for a reason. What did I blank for? I
I
blanked.
mentioned the games. I mentioned Pendragon.
Oh, he pronounces it. I thought he pronounced it Pendragon.
What?
He spent time in Germany. I think he's probably legit. I think he pronounced it Pendragon.
Pendragon?
I believe so. It's like mind blown.
I don't think I can do that. I'm, like I don't care if it's right. I don't think I can do that. I'm just too Texan. You know, we hit that second syllable and we stay on it for a while for a reason. It's in 3-syllable words. It gets long. It gets lonely in the middle. You need to take a break sometimes. So Pendragon is where I'm going to stick. Bless
Yeah,
your
it's
heart.
yeah, I didn't really say anything, but I was like, wow, I never would have guessed, but now I have to do some research. But anyway, I'm assuming, I mean, he is from I think even people pronounce Chaosium different. It's I think the Brits pronounce it different even than that.
I spent time in the Bay Area and met those guys when I was working at ChessX in the 90s. And I'm going to go with how they pronounce it, which is Chaosium.
It was Chaosium.
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah.
it pronounced differently, but I can't remember. But it may have been the Brits. It may not
It,
have been.
if it's somebody British, and that's fine, we're just going to chalk this up as an aluminium thing and move on. Because I like the British too much to
Yeah.
get into a pissing contest over her.
Well, I think we know that I think we agree that they may be intellectually and culturally superior, but it doesn't mean that we have to follow that
That's
line.
exactly right. There you go. There you go. I will happily be wrong at the top of my lungs.
It's like, yeah, and there's just things. It's like you're too old. It's just like it's just the brain's calcified. The neural pathways are already burned in.
There
There's
it
no
is.
making new neural pathways. That's
No,
long sailed.
no, it's like copper tubing in there. There's no changes. There's no, you know, if you bend it, it's just gonna rink and
Yeah,
kink up. It's
exactly.
not gonna make a new pathway.
Yeah, and so I'm really pretty stoked about that. So I'll sign you up for Chaosium's.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Um,
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be fun to play. And we haven't played in the game yet, so that'd be cool.
no. I'm
I
also
assure you, I'm a delight.
okay. Well, then I'll throw this other offer because I'm curating it to a small number.
Oh,
Through Old Tan's Door.
ooh,
I'm
with
thinking that first quarter 2022. So we'll see.
that I may have to say no to that simply because I've got a bunch of health stuff going on at the first quarter of 2022. I'm hoping to get my surgery stuff done. So
That sounds, there's nothing like looking forward to surgery.
right, they're gonna cut me open. Oh, it's a dream come true. He's gonna stitch me back together like Frankenstein. I'm so excited, guys.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So what I've been doing is so what I've done was I've been wanting to do so obviously well, not obviously, because I don't think anybody else knows about this, but we have this idea for a future projects involving goblins.
Yes.
I was wanting to do a kind of hex crawl, and I thought, well, maybe I better actually read some hex crawls before I start writing hex crawls.
Right.
And so I grabbed. I talked about Ben. The same thing. The Evils of Ilmire, and then then the Silver or the Tower of the Silver Axe.
Right.
But I realized it's just taking too much time to run. I'm like, well, why don't I just do Ben's? It's pretty short. It's pretty concise.
Right.
And so what I've been doing is copying and pasting it, and putting it in Foundry, adding macros, so that when when you get to a point where it says, 1 and 2 on a D6, this will happen. I can just click a macro at that moment and it'll roll a D6. And
oh wow.
So that way, when I'm actually running it, I can keep it flowing. Is my hope. But also, I'm learning how to format. So anyway, this is a step. So then, when I do whatever I do next, it will build on it. But anyway, the Through Old Tan's Door is just a very nice, concise dungeon. Well, I don't say dungeon, but
I may try to see if I can put the heist generator on the Foundry. It uses D20 tables, which might be a little data heavy.
No, not heavy at all.
Okay.
It just takes a little bit of time, but no, you can generate. You can generate all sorts of stuff. You can have tables roll on subtables that roll on subtables. You could go crazy on this stuff, and it's not overly hard.
Okay.
It's not hard at all.
All right. That's very reassuring. That sounds really kind of cool.
So what I'll do is I think sometime I'll just give you a little tour.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love it. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, So anyway, I'm really looking forward to that. The only thing is I was talking to him previously on the previous week, but it was like systems that are used. We can dovetail into Kickstarters here in a little bit, and this will be a way of dovetailing. But I picked up Free League had a Black Friday sale,
right? And
so I picked up a bunch of books because they had the virtual tabletops to go with it for Foundry.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And so one of them I picked up was Vaesen. Are you familiar with Vaesen?
I really, really want to check that out, but the price is cost prohibitive for me.
It would have been okay. I think you might have been able to swing it. But anyway, we'll talk about it later. But I think Black Friday they're running really good deals. So you're familiar with the premise of it?
Yes, love the idea. Yeah, I think it's really cool and unique and interesting.
Yeah, and what it does is it's like they took the Call of Cthulhu and used the Free League mechanics to kind of do the similar type of thing.
All right.
So they do have fear, but you can be mentally broken. You can be physically broken.
Okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah, and it follows pretty much their standard way of. You've never probably played a Free League game before, have you?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
Have you ever played Rollmaster?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So they have critical charts?
Oh yes. Deeply, intensely. You've got to be kidding me. Critical charts. Yes, I have seen Chartmaster. Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. So what they did is if you trigger a critical, you roll on a D66 table.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's not the crazy D100.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the things are, and it goes from being not lethal at all to very lethal.
Yeah.
Like maybe instantly lethal.
Okay.
And so every free league system, except for, I've not seen Tales from the Loop, but they pretty much have variations of that critical table and how they do it. So,
Yeah.
but what's interesting is with this, because it's very set up in folktales-y
Right.
19th century Sweden, and you're given sight, so you're seeing creatures you really shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah.
You're exposed to this. So what happens is, at most of the time, critical injuries are really bad things you don't want.
Right.
But actually, the critical injuries, if you get way close to dying, critical injuries, they don't kill you and you're able to survive it, you come out with a benefit. Like you have something, you have seen the other side, you have
You get
reached
witch inside or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and it may last a little bit or it could be permanent. Any of your
Interesting.
yeah, and
That's a
so it's
cool
like
idea.
yeah, exactly. So if your chest gets caved in and somebody's able to save you, you may wind up with some benefits for at least the rest of the session.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool.
And
Yeah, I like it.
I wish they had more adventures for it. They don't really list a lot, so I don't know. But it's a very charming, very interesting, very creepy. Um, they really hit the folk tales like I think they
Right.
originally were.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. I saw their most recent Kickstarter,
Oh
and
yeah, of
I
Britain.
I was so excited for that. I was like, oh my God, I got to check this out. And so I grabbed it uh sight unseen. And then with like 2 days to go, I was scrolling back through that and I was like, you know what? I don't know what the rate of exchange is. And and mind you, what I got was one physical copy of each of the books. And then I think there was a screen involved because
Yeah.
I don't need the other stuff, and I got dice out the wazoo. I don't need any of that. I just need give me the books. And if you're going to put a screen in there, fine, I'll take the screen too. And so I did the conversion online and found that I was going to be out $189 for 3 books and a chart. And at that point, and granted, there's probably shipping included in there, and I just couldn't do it. I was like, yeah, there's no, I'm not gonna, I can't, I won't. The look beautiful, the artwork is gorgeous, and I've tell that the books are sumptuous, but this is a spine I'm gonna crack open, and 189 bucks for 3 books is just over too much. I can't do it.
Well, just wait for Black Friday next year.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out, and maybe, hopefully somebody in the States will get copies that don't involve, having to send something by, news gathering ravens. I don't know how they do stuff in Scandinavia, but, I'm sure it's a boat ride. And right now, the last thing I want to do is put anything on a boat. So,
Yeah, they definitely had yeah, they did okay with Twilight 2000, but it got delayed quite a bit.
right.
And but yeah, it's definitely what's interesting to me is they kind of the premise is your investigators,
Mhm.
the previous investigators disappeared, and that you're kind of tied to a town. You have a mansion, a castle that you
Okay.
develop,
Yeah.
but all the and I forget what they're called. Maybe they're called Vason. I can't remember. They are maybe good, maybe bad, but it's the idea is that people forgot about them, and as people becoming more industrial and
Right.
haven't been treating them right, they've also been encroaching on their habitats,
Right.
and they're it's like kind of like poisoning them in a way. So a lot
Mhm.
of the Vason, they're not necessarily bad, they're not necessarily good, and how you decide to deal with them is really up to the players.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea anyways. It's a fantasy conceit, the idea that, as we as we turned from magic turned away from us as well. And some people went quietly and then others did not. And I think that's a wonderful idea for fiction and games to explore. And so, yeah, I look forward to cracking into it one day when I have enough, Swedish gold to afford their sumptuous books.
Yeah, it is they are definitely beautiful, and the thing is, their systems are also well thought out too.
Right.
So, I mean, and their Kickstarter for that, I don't know what it hit. I think it probably hit over 1 million.
Did it?
Oh
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it did. Yeah, because it went over 1 million because of the exchange rate for no other reason. I mean, and it's not the first one either. There've been a ton. I know of at least 6, and I think there may be more that have hit $1 million this year. It's crazy. I don't want to say there's gold in them Thar hills, but I wonder aloud if there is an upper limit to this, because there doesn't seem to be any kind of stoppage of games anytime soon. I think it's neat that it's all unique. One of the ones that made over $1 million was a game set completely in a Native American / first person milieu. I forget what the name of it was, but it was all steeped in those traditions and those magic systems, and it sort of presupposed uh, a world where the white men never got a toehold, and it sounded great. And of course, they were using indigenous creators and native creators and speakers and readers for all of it, and it looks fantastic. And the only reason I didn't get one is because it was a cash flow situation like always, but clearly I was the only one, because it made well over 7 figures. So yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, this is this is the time. If you have a high-end component that you want to put out, here you go.
Yeah, I think Free League, they're pretty consistent. Whatever they put out is going to generate a large amount, and they always put out good product. Monty Cook's another one that constantly uses
Yeah,
Kickstarter, and he always does well.
a guy that probably doesn't need to use it at this point, but whatever. I mean, yeah, all of his stuff, and all of his stuff is high end as well. I mean, uh, this stuff is not, I'm always excited when somebody is putting out a hardcover that's only $50. I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh, whew, $50.
Yeah.
I don't have to sell a kidney or give blood.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. It's like, and that's it's kind of interesting. Is going to zines. So I bought the most recent edition of Runequest.
Yeah.
In when I was at GameholeCon. So basically, RuneQuest, I think, was originally maybe tied in with Glorantha. Then they split the two off and
Right.
do the various, and then all of a sudden once it came back to Chaosium, they're like, we're gonna put the two together. They're inseparable. Yeah. This is not a generic system. Right. But I'm flipping through. It's like the art, and I'm thinking, I'm trying to sell a zine for $18, and I hold it up against this hardback book. It's like, wow, I don't think RPG is going to do a bust, but I wonder if zines will. Maybe not.
I don't think so, because what I have noticed almost uniformly with the zines that I've backed, and the zines that I see that continue to do well, that's people pushing a format that's something different, or they've got an idea that they want to explore, and it's a great idea, but it's not a 256 page hardcover idea. the guy that every time I start thinking about this, the one that comes to mind is that guy that put out Rain on a Conga Drum. It was a collection of solo games based on the lyrics of Townes Van Zandt. Now, I love Townes Van Zandt. I'm a Texan. It's part of our starter kit,
Yeah.
Here's your Willie Nelson CD. Welcome. That kind of thing. So, but I was fascinated with that idea, and thought it was just brilliant. The Poncho and Lefty game alone is absolutely worth the cost of admission. But that's a game that he gives it to you in 6 pages, and it's the full game. You don't need anything more than that. So I think they do serve a purpose in being that concept delivery, that idea delivery system that is unique. And I think that as long as people keep telling those really interesting games and doing it in their voice and kind of their style, I don't know that the stuff that I've done has been like revelatory in any way, but it absolutely came from my brain. And when you read it, you can tell, you can absolutely see and go, yeah, that's something Finn did. All right. Yeah. So I think that's where the magic lies for zines. And
it does. But I think some people have looked at books as being, I don't know if it was price per word, they kind of compare the value, but and that's where in some ways I kind of look and think, oh, but you're right. The thing is the other thing is, to go to hardback and to go to the word counts that they're doing is cost prohibitive unless you can outlay some serious cash.
Yeah. Or find a way to cleverly work around, those kinds of strictures, because, sometimes you may have you may not need the equivalent of video game concept art for your scenario, for your stories. I think that, Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro sort of had the advantage of having enough money to throw at things that they could, give you that sort of rich layered thing. And when you're competing with, when you think about the cost of the player's handbook versus the cost of the latest Xbox game, there is certainly an equivalency,
right,
more or less. And so you have to at least be able for somebody to look through the player's handbook and go, oh, wow, this is cool. This is like a making of game book for one of my favorite video games, and even, I know that's silly, but yeah, they're sort of on the hook for that. So I think that there is certainly an onus, and Vaesen is another one. And Vaesen, the art alone will sell Vaesen. There were people who will buy that game just to look at the pictures, but you still have to have a good game at the end of the day. And there is a point, I think, at which people stop, just like comic collectors. Very few people will buy every Batman book. And even Batman collectors won't always buy every Batman book. They'll buy the 3 Batman books they can afford, their 3 favorite Batman books. And so you have to decide, where to put those resources. Are you going to do a good game that people can sink their teeth into, that they can come back to? Or do you want to do something very pretty and also very empty? I do not want to throw Shadowrun under the bus here. However,
let me start it up. Vroom, 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 vroom,
I just feel like that was a catch grab from the get-go. I've never liked Shadowrun ever. I took one look at it and went, there's no way that I want to play this game with anyone, anywhere, anytime, for any reason. But then you'd look through the game and there'd be like this great artwork and this really cool concept stuff. And there's like a troll and he's got a particle cannon on his shoulder and he's got a thumbs up and you're like, oh, that looks really cool, but it's Shadowrun. I'm not going to roll 2d6. I just can't do it. You can't make me. So yeah, I get, I understand. I just wonder, and this is the other thing, everybody in gaming right now there's certainly a lot of like guys our age, but I would say the average gamer these days is probably 24 years old, maybe. If you factor everybody in, I think gaming has gotten younger. And I think it got significantly younger in 2014. I think the average age went from 36 to 22 in the matter of 2 quarters. And I don't think it's appreciably gone up very much since then. I mean, I'm talking out of my butt. I don't really know what the numbers are, but I'd love to see them, because
that's to me, that's really where it needs to be. Right?
Oh, not out of my
no,
butt.
No, yeah, it needs to be out of your butt. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
No, that's where it needs to be.
But yeah, it should be, and you're right. I think that's a lot of what's driving the engine.
That's health.
Yeah.
Because we were at a point where it was just us, and it looked like it was over.
Right.
It's just like, you think of all these young people that are coming through, like what crazy stuff they're going to come up with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It'll be like
totally,
and it will be. Yeah, I just think it's pretty astounding. But
yeah,
and I think So I think that's our answer. I think because I think there's 2 things going on. I think when we grew up, there really wasn't much as far as really good gaming with computers.
Right.
And then I think World of Warcraft hit, or not World of Warcraft. I never played those games. What's the MMO?
EverQuest.
Was it?
EverQuest was the first one.
Yeah. What was the other one? The big one? WoW. World of Warcraft.
Yeah, World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Then like everybody was playing that, and then it was just like, it just seemed like at that time period, it looked like gaming was going to die.
Yep.
But I think it's because people didn't have computer games that were of that level of immersiveness, and it was a novelty.
Right.
But now you got people that grew up with it. They're like, well, yeah, I can play all these things anytime I want, but they really enjoy the social aspect.
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's I like that it's kind of gone full circle. That a lot of them have realized, there's a lot of stuff you can do in Dungeons and Dragons you can't do in Skyrim.
Yeah.
Even though you can do a lot in Skyrim, you can do more in Skyrim than you could ever do in EverQuest or World of Warcraft. But you can do even more in D&D.
But you can only do what they program.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. That was why none of my people I know for years played those games. Right? We poo-pooed them. My game's 10 times better than, I'm playing a game set in Lankmar. There's no Lankmar video game. What's wrong with these people? So, but we're kind of through that looking glass a little bit. I think they figured out that video games deliver a more cinematic experience.
Oh, that's for sure.
And stuff like Red Dead Redemption and Fallout 4 and stuff like that.
And you can play it any time too.
Right. I don't need at this point. This was my thinking back in the day. At this point, the stories have gotten sophisticated that I don't need to find 4 other people if I want to go adventuring. I can just do that myself. So there's certainly an appeal to that, but yeah, you miss out on the social aspect. And I think the OSR was originally triage for what was going to be the death knell of tabletop role-playing games. I think they, enough people ran in and started doing CPR on, what was left of Dungeons and Dragons and its ilk, and managed to keep things limping along for a while. And that sounds bad again. I don't mean it in a bad way. I think it's laudable, that everybody sort of took ownership, of the hobby at a time when nobody seemed to care. I think of them doing that during the time that World of Warcraft was all anybody could talk about. So,
and it's to me interesting that a lot of the new school games really are made with a sensibility, that was old school. So
yeah,
to me, it's like there's a lot of ways. I think some of the more modern systems are probably closer to BX than AD&D was to BX.
Yes. Yes. And I also think that with the exposure to more media, not just movies, but TV and books as well, and having that media be more complicated, that it's becoming more of like dungeon crawls are deadly again, and it's okay if the character dies. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Uh, because paper's cheap, and so is my imagination. So I'm not invested in this the way I used to be. And I think that's actually kind of healthy. I think it's okay to play a game where your character can bite it, halfway through, and then you just sort of watch everybody else and kind of catcall them as they fall into pits of doom.
Oh yeah.
Um, you know, uh, I remember, back in the day that was anathema. We would never dream of, doing that, deliberately, or whatever. But I feel like some of that sensibility is back. I think you're right. Yeah.
I was at Gamehole Con, I think it was a few years ago, and it was a forget the system, but it was a D&D style game, but it was being ran by a 13-year-old boy. Oh my goodness. It was so
Don't
amazing.
say.
It was so amazing. It was so amazing. I'll tell you what, it was one of the it was a lot of joy. It was a lot of joy because he was
Yeah.
I mean, he was a hard DM, and but the stuff he would do, it's like, oh, there's a hole in this wall. Do you stick your hand in it? Like, no. There's a such and such. Do you stick your arm in it? No.
Oh, that's
Uh,
awesome.
but my character died, and I never had this happen. So my character died. He walked over to where I was sitting, took a pencil and put a big X across my character to demonstrate he was dead. And I think that's what probably some of the old school people do, but they just walk with X. And I tell you what, that was so fun just to see him do that.
I'm just glad that they found a way to channel a sociopath, apart from killing animals. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for their
Oh,
parents,
no, man,
nicely done.
that kid was fun. I mean, I think it was fun was I mean, we talk about how bad games were. If you go back objectively, every game we probably ever ran in high school was objectively bad.
I would not presume to debate you on that. Yeah.
But boy, were they fun.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I like some, we all think our group was better than they really were, but I think we had the virtue of being able to make hay with some when the sun shone. There's a lot of stories and adventures I don't remember, but the ones I do remember are the ones that we all kind of look at and go, yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, I think so much of it is I'm always not a fan of war stories, D&D war stories, because not everybody's a good storyteller. And also some of the best stories that happen in game are the equivalent of a 30-minute long Shaggy Dog story inside joke.
Yeah.
And and there's always a point at which they go, oh, what I didn't tell you is that he's also a werewolf, and so that's why. And you go, oh wow, I should have known that at the beginning, but all right, whatever. So yeah, I love those experiences. That's the stuff that a video game can't give you. Your reaction to that in a room by yourself, with a bag of crumpled Cheetos at your feet, is great. And you can get online and go, hey, something cool just happened in Red Dead Redemption 2. And everybody will go, was it this?
Right.
Yeah, it was. Damn, this sucks. All right. Yeah, fine, whatever. So I think I'm glad. To me, these are all signs that the hobby's healthy and that the industry can continue for as long as it keeps making relatively smart choices. And I'll let that be a very broad topic under which we could place a lot of things because,
Yeah,
you
and I
know,
think right now the only way it seems to me that unless you're a really big name, about the only way to actually have a business anymore is through Kickstarter.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's the marketing.
yep,
I don't want to say distribution, but it definitely is. I think of even larger companies. I mean, they would not do as well without Kickstarter. But all of us smaller people, there is no way we could get enough zines sold to make it worthwhile to pay for art, to pay for
right.
this and that and this and that and this and that.
Have for the virtue of having it be a nationally available space, right? Uh, I mean, when I used to do zines back in the old day, if I was going to a really big show, I'd make 20 copies, you know.
Right.
And now I have to look at a printer because I've got, 125 zines to send out. And then I have to decide how many more am I going to need for the rest of the year and what do I want to put back for shows and stuff like that. And, if I'd have told my younger self, about needing to make 250 copies of Gobsmack, he would have looked at me like I was, Daddy Warbucks. Like, how are you even
Yeah.
doing that? And now that, and 250 copies of a zine is nothing in today's market,
Right.
frankly. Yeah, that's bottom tier kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's a Kickstarter is a powerful force. I'm probably even I'm on the fence about whether or not to do one of the marketing groups that uses Kickstarter as their play space.
What do you mean?
Backer Kit
Oh yeah, yeah.
has a suite of things that they can offer you. Because I think that my game will be very appealing to people outside the reach of what I'm capable of doing. I think everybody within my reach will see it and go, I see it, but I think more people would need to see it
You need to
to really.
talk to, I think, especially if you're trying to play in the 5e space.
Mhm.
There's a guy named Zach Goins.
Yes, I know Zach. Yeah.
You need to probably, because I think if I recall correctly, I think I can't remember if he did Backer Kit or not, but I think, I think I'm going to make some assumptions. I'm wondering if some of the advertising you might do, I don't know. The 5e space is a hard space.
It is.
I don't, I, I'm not trying to talk you out of it, but man,
No,
I
no.
don't know.
At this, where my calculation is right now is, of course, they take a chunk, right? And I think maybe I run the very large risk of that chunk being a break even thing rather than a make extra money thing. I might make enough money on it to merit the larger print run, but not be a thing that I can capitalize on.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm going to do, because I mean, that's just it. 'Cause even with the Madlands, I basically wound up with copies. So
Right.
at the end, it worked out fine. I'm not all complaining, but it's like I wound up with like 31 copies, which if I sell them, I do okay.
Mhm.
But I thought, if I'm going to be in this for a while, that's not a big deal to have it. I can just make my money later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
A-
Um,
And I think the idea is, I think that comes down to what you're wanting. But if I'm not going to be, I don't know that I could sell, maybe I could without Kickstarter, without having other projects and doing it as add-ons. I
mhm.
don't know how easy it would be to sell 31 extra copies.
Yeah. And of course, I'm looking at the Park It Online model as well. So the initial print run, I can print that very close because I don't have to worry about uh, enough overage to cover the next thing. The whole reason for doing that would be so that I have more people I can talk to when the second book comes out for Polite Society. I'm trying to seed the ground for the next thing.
Oh no, that's definitely legit. But I still think
Yeah,
though, if you have even if you were to say, I'm going to do a second thing, and I know that when I do a second thing, there's a good chance that there's going to be people who bought the first thing that didn't buy the first thing, they're going to want both. And this is
right.
even going with Madlands. I'm kind of we've not discussed this yet, but I'm kind of conflicted. So I mean, we got
We're rambling. That's okay.
it's I'm conflicted because we called issue one.
Hmm.
Then we're called issue two. So if people didn't buy issue one, I mean, I will have some issue ones I can sell, but I don't know at that point if it's like, is there a point where if you start naming things and have things sequential, if people feel like they won't buy because let's say we come up to like or Madlands 3, issue 3, is
Yeah,
that going to put people off thinking, well, I can't buy the first one without buying the other two?
that's a good point. Um, I can't answer that because I planned for that by making POD options for all of my zines on drive-through.
So did you actually, so you upload the files and you got them set for POD?
Mhm.
Cool. I
You
was
can,
going to do that with Scoundrels, but I just drive-throughs not mix them. It's not easy, and I started like freaking out, and I was like, I don't know if I want to deal with this.
yeah. I can tell you that I have had people buy it both ways. Uh,
Um,
Probably
cool.
2-to-1 POD versus or 2-to-1 print on demand or
It's
PDF
a
versus print on demand. But um, there are people that want to hold a copy in their hands physically. And while it's not the same zine as the Mixum zines, I'm again okay with that as well because um, I can look at a glance and know where stuff came from, right? So, there's no chance of getting anything confused. So with Monty Hall, I only funded the first two zines, but I thought I made enough money that I can go ahead and do 3 and 4 and put them out as PDF files and also make them available as print on demand files. So for the people who backed get all of the issues, I can send them PDFs of everything. And then anybody else that wants to get issues 3 and issues 4, they just go through drive-through RPG. I generate a coupon, they print out, they sell it for the difference and print a copy. And so that was the way, I think that's the way going forward to do it. And so I'm kind of, I'm designing Polite Society with that notion in mind. you know no matter how I end up printing and producing the first book, there will be a soft cover option on drive-through RPG, and anybody that wants it can go get it right there. That may, for the future, who knows where I'm going to end up and how things are going to be, but I can park all of that stuff there, and that they do good books. They
right.
are,
If you decide you want to get 10 of them printed, it's not a bad price for you just to do it and resell.
no, absolutely. You can, and that's the other thing is they charge me what it costs for them, which is great.
So I haven't. I wish I had been keeping track of Mixum prices over the period of the last year, because I'm sure they've got to be increasing. Because I'm looking at margins of break-even margins, and they seem awfully. So, like for instance, Fane of the Fly God, I'm thinking I'm going to have to sell. I'm going to have to sell. I'm going to have to fund at $4,000 to break even.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
like,
That, that's that's the game right now.
but
Thankfully.
I don't think I'll lose. I won't lose much money because a lot of that cost is going to be the printing for each issue.
Right. Mm-hmm. Have you looked at, now here's another thought. I did this for the international stuff and it worked pretty well. Um, you can upload your print on demand file at Drive-Thru RPG, you can see how much that's going to cost, right? And you can look at what you want to charge for it and all that kind of stuff. Let's pretend that your trade paperback costs $3.16 to produce, and you're going to sell it for $15. So you could kickstart it with the idea, and you basically tell them, here's the print on demand version. You call it that. It's not offset printing, it's the print on demand version. What they're going to do is their pledge is going to be an at cost coupon.
Yeah.
And then they just pay the difference. So, 316, you can call it 350 or 4. I don't know that you can do a centage, a cent on Kickstarter. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but you could charge $4 for that. And then they're still on the hook for the difference. So what they're paying for initially is the production cost. They pay the difference, they pay the shipping, and they get a physical copy. I've done it a few times. I like it. It works just great, and you get a book. And best of all, you're not out printing costs on any of it.
Right. All the fulfillment, everything is done by them, not by you.
You do run the risk of you lose some quality. You lose.
But they know that. Anybody that's doing the print on demand, they know that it's not. And I think that's legit because I think Drive-Thru's got printers in Australia, they got it in Europe, they've got it. So
that was the thing. Yeah. The international printers covered all that. And I only had a couple of people for both of my ZineQuest projects do it, but it was so much nicer to do that. It was just so much easier to, digitally do it.
Yeah, I think I just need to, I figured I'd need a weekend to figure it out. Because I think you have to do your cover separately, but I'm thinking even with, I need to do with Mixam. I should be doing my covers as a separate file anyway.
Right.
Just to ensure I've had things match up fine, but really they should be doing it separately. That's one thing you have to do with Drive-Thru. Yes. It has to be separate.
Yep.
So yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm just so dreading that. Oh,
it's back to that learning curve again, man. It's a whole new skill set. I took the weekend to do the Drive-Thru RPG because my other option was, you could just do all these yourself,
No, I think that is the way that's the key to international, really is.
Going forward, certainly, until all this nonsense blows over. Yeah.
Well, I don't think shipping's ever going to really go. I don't think it's ever going to be reasonable. And also, I don't know, even the volatility. It is such, I think somebody actually said there was it wasn't, it's the, not Kickstarter game. It's a game, it's Kickstarter for games, but supposedly they calculate all the VAT and all the shipping.
Yeah. There's a couple of those guys starting up now that are doing, that there's a couple that do comic, crowdfunding, game crowdfunding, and, I have not looked at the efficacy of any of that. I'm interested. I could be talked into going somewhere other than Kickstarter. Sure. No doubt.
Well, that might make sense too. I mean, the other thing I've thought about, it creates its own set of problems too. I thought about, you could do a Kickstarter for the same product, but do it in England.
Right.
And then just have it, work out that way. The problem is obviously is you have to have somebody else doing the distribution or the mailing.
Yeah.
But also for England to mail it out to Europe is a mess. Every country is different and they're not consistent, even because people can wind up with surprises. So we're pretty fortunate, even though there's a lot of bad things about America. You don't you don't order a book from overseas. You pay $30 in shipping, it gets here, and somebody says, by the way, you owe another $20 in taxes. Like,
Right.
but they do that in some of those countries.
Yeah. Yeah. That's rough. It is. Sucks.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that ends up, straightening out. But yeah, you're right. It probably won't. It probably won't ever. So, but I think the majority of my audience is going to be, the vast majority of my audience is going to be American. So I kind of, no disrespect to my friends in Ireland and Scotland and England and France and Japan and everywhere else, but I'm going to kind of cross that bridge when I come to it, to be honest.
Yeah, because what the hard part is, well, it won't necessarily sink you, but you kind of need a certain threshold of people from
Right.
the United Kingdom to make it worthwhile.
That's exactly
And that's
right.
what's scary about these spreadsheets. It's like you got to set it up. You don't. It's how your mixes are and how you price things. It's like it's. I feel pretty comfortable now that the spreadsheet I've got being able to calculate a lot of things, but to try the complexity of Europe, I don't know that I want to deal with that. But I think the POD is the way to go. But
Yeah.
anyway, I think we're probably hitting the time-space continuum here, Mark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure I just heard Santa's sleigh fly overhead.
Yes, I think I do too. Oh my goodness. Oh.
That guy gets around, man. He's everywhere.
Yeah, he does. He does. So anyway, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, as always.
And until next time, Mark, take care.
Back at you, brother.
Oops. I don't want to end meeting. I want to stop recording.
Yes.